Welcome to the Trailhead from UltraSignup, where big adventures begin. Trail running is so much more than just a sport. It's a community, a culture, a way of seeing the world. On this show, we're not dissecting splits or debating shoe specs. We're here to get to the heart of it all, the people, the places, and the stories that speak to the soul of the sport. Join me, Zoe Rome, and my co-host, Brendan Leonard, as we'll bring you conversations with the everyday athletes, local legends, quirky characters, and creative minds who make trail running what it is. Messy, joyful, gritty, and deeply human. Because it's not just about chasing finish lines. It's about the friendships forged on long climbs, the lessons learned in the pain cave, and the weird, wild moments that remind us why this sport is about so much more than the miles. Here's something I forget every winter, that I still sweat. Maybe not quite as dramatically as during July, but between some heated indoor treadmill runs, maybe overdoing it with the layers on the occasional trail long run, and just existing and training in the winter, I'm losing electrolytes without the obvious reminder of a soaked shirt. That's where Element comes in. It's a tasty electrolyte drink mix with sodium, potassium, and magnesium. And here's the ultimate winter hydration move. Their chocolate salt and chocolate caramel flavors, so good. Heat them up. Thank me later. They're legitimately as good as any hot chocolate. I keep a mug at my desk when I'm editing, and it makes hydration feel like a treat instead of a chore. Oh, and if you missed it, my all-time favorite flavor, lemonade salt, is back full-time now because people lost their minds when it sold out. It's tart, it's salty, it's perfect. Get a free sample pack with any order at drinkelement.com/ultrasignup. That's drinkelement.com/ultrasignup.
Hi, my name is Pat Cade. I am a cross-country track coach, teacher, tutor, do a little bit of IT for the school district. I'm kind of a do-everything man up here in Leadville for Lake County.
Yeah, so living in the bustling metropolis of, Leadville seems like they have you holding down multiple positions at that high school. But I'm curious how you ended up in Leadville, because I feel like you've become a big part of the community there. What brought you out there?
Well, so me and my wife met in college, undergraduate. She grew up in Glenwood Springs. And we were coming up here as we started dating, right? We would go to Glenwood. Then she got a job for Outward Bound, where the aid station is. And she worked there 3 straight summers. So I would live in Glenwood, and she would work up here, and I would commute between Glenwood and Leadville to pick her up. I remember going to High Mountain Pies in like 2004, 2003. And we just had a love of the town. And after, lots of life stuff happened, and after we decided to leave New York, and where do we want to live next? And we were just small mountain town like Leadville. And we took the plunge. They had a math job opening for her, and they found lots of things for me to do.
Wait, was she a math teacher too?
She was a math teacher. So when she was hired,
Okay.
She was the 7th and 8th grade math teacher, then 8th grade math teacher for a long time. And then she is currently the assistant principal. This is her second year as the assistant principal.
Okay. Did you guys meet in a math class at college then, or?
Pretty much, yeah. She was doing physics homework across the hall with someone else. And the guy was like, hey, we don't know how to do this problem, but I bet you the guy across the hall has already done it. And so he just yelled my name, and I came across the hall and
heck of a wingman. Shout out to that guy.
And he's quite handsome and charming.
Yeah.
That's it. So you have a PhD in math.
I have a PhD in math, yes.
Do you want us to call you Dr. Cade during the?
No, I
Okay.
tell my kids, right, like Dr., Coach, Professor, Mr. Cade, right? I have all these honorifics.
All the titles.
Yeah, all the titles. And they pretty much just call me Coach Cade or just Cade.
Okay. That's great. I listened to another podcast interview you did, and you made a comment that was like almost all of the math teachers, the math faculty at Lake County High School have either run the Leadville 100 or are coaches of endurance sports. Is that like 100%? Like how many people is that?
Well, in the math department, there are like 5, I think. And pretty much everyone in the high school, well, I'm saying 7th grade through seniors.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them have all of the high school teachers have at least completed it. So
Wow.
Jeff Spencer is the mountain bike dream chaser. This was his first year. And he'd been doing tons of events before that. Jamie Peters has done several of the events while they've lived here. And Carl Rempson is the Nordic coach.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty much all the high school math classes are taught by coaches. Jeff is a mountain bike coach. Jamie is a track coach. I'm a track coach. I'm a running coach. Carl's the Nordic coach. So
I feel like I would have had significantly, if not more, different respect for my high school teachers if I knew they could just throw down a 100-mile, one of the more difficult 100-mile races at 10K. I feel like that definitely is sort of puts y'all in a slightly different category of person.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. I wanted to get better this year at a couple aspects of downhill running, and I was like, who can help me with that? Carl. The Nordic coach was like, yeah, man, he's the one that can run downhill the best. So go follow him on a couple of runs. So it's great to have that ability in the district, right?
An incredible group chat, sounds like.
Yeah, was that a sort of sly job requirement where they kind of well, if you get hired here, you kind of have to, or was that something you kind of influenced as a faculty member? Was it like that when you got there, or?
It was like that when I got there. Yeah,
Okay,
everyone was kind of in their roles. Yeah, so I was shocked when I arrived. The first job I got when we arrived in Leadville, I looked at job postings, and before we even moved into town, I applied for the middle school cross country coach. And I interviewed my first day in Leadville. And so I've been the middle school. Well, I'm now the high school cross country coach, but I've been a cross country coach since my first day in Leadville. I'm working on my 10th year here in Leadville.
Wow, that's so
great.
Made you why coaching cross country high school kids? Obviously, there's a ton of people who are coaches, whatever that may mean, but I don't know that everyone dedicates a significant portion of their career to sort of helping young folk get into the sport, especially in sort of a rural place like Leadville.
Well, so I had a really influential coach in high school. My high school was tiny, even smaller than Lake County. There were about 120 people in the whole high school, and there were about 25 people in my graduating class. And my high school cross country coach / track coach was amazing. He would drive me around the state to enter me in things. And he would give me his old shoes and give me his old race jerseys, right? And it was really incredible the impact he had on my life, and the impact that running then eventually had on my life. And so I wanted to give back, right? When we moved to Leadville, part of the move was we came out of New York. I was a professor at Siena College, and we had some life issues. Me and my wife are infertile, and not being able to kind of go down that traditional path was really hard for us. We love kids, and she was a inner city math teacher, and I was working at a college, and I just wanted to be part of people's lives and build the next generation. Even if it's not our biological kids, boy, I can even help more kids being a coach. And so we talked a lot about that. And I had done a little bit of coaching, not coaching so much, but continuing around in college. I stayed around college for an extra year or two and was an assistant coach, an undergraduate. And so that drove my love of coaching. And then helping the kids was just huge. I really wanted to do that. And it was really cool to start with middle school. You start with these young kids who've never moved before. They don't know what they're doing. So you're able to give all kinds of speeches about the silliest little things, eating, drinking, right? It's there's so much you can do with their lives and how much you can help. And so it was, it's just so incredibly rewarding to work with kids.
What was on your sort of job application for that position? If you had no formal coaching experience.
I had, I ran in high school and college D3, nothing special, Whitman College. So I was on the varsity cross country team all 4 years. We didn't have a track team there, but I was part of the track club. So once I got certified, I think my senior year, I was the driver. So I drove the track club around to the meets in Oregon, and Washington. And then, in fact, I competed against Nick Simmons. He was a year older than me. We were in the same conference. Nick Simmons, the Olympic 800 meter runner. So he went to Willamette. So we ran against each other a lot. And then I had a year of coaching. Then we stayed an extra year. My wife was a RD at Whitman. We stayed an extra year, and I taught math and worked for the cross country team, kind of as a fifth year. Didn't redshirt, so I couldn't compete, but I did help there. And then when I got to New York, the 9 years we were in New York, I did a lot of triathlons. So I competed, picked that up, And the high school cross country coach was a big triathlete, is a big triathlete. She's now the AD. She's super happy, talked triathlons and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was shocked that there wasn't more people in town stepping up to do this. And apparently it's more of the time commitment. There's a lot of knowledge in town. There's a lot of people. Timmy Parr was working at the district at the time. He was a previous 100 runner winner. And he was our geography teacher. I was surprised that no one else was really asking. And, with my little resume, I got the job.
What is it about, what makes a good coach? Like somebody who just, like, obviously knowing how to run is one thing, right? But like knowing what makes a good coach?
I think what makes a good coach is someone who can meet the athletes where they're at and work with them for their goals. You want to push and motivate a little bit, right? Eating your vegetables some. But I think that a good coach takes their experience and knowledge and applies it to the specific athlete. I have 22 kids on the cross country team, and I make sure I talk with each of them before practice as everyone's kind of collecting together, and at the end of practice. Maybe I don't always get a conversation on a jog, right? Because there's only me. So as we kind of spread apart on our distance runs, maybe I run with a group for a while and fall back to another group. But that constant check-in, that constant, where are you at? How are you liking this? What do you need from me? I think being, rather than dictating to the athletes and to people, hey, this is the way you're supposed to do it. I think having a conversation with them, even kids, having a conversation with them about where they're at, what their goals are. So I think that flexibility really creates a good coach, someone who is not just knowledgeable about things, but willing to question that knowledge and apply it to the specific athlete in front of them.
You sort of touched on, like, you get to work with like kiddos at the very beginning of their running careers and, talking about like fueling and hydration. But it sort of seems to me like those are like a kind of eternal conversations in trail and ultra running, things that, even us adults that are further down this path could stand to hear a time or two. I'm curious, like, what do you think adults could learn from the kids that you're coaching?
I think the adults could learn about pushing through. I think everyone has a threshold for where I feel like they kind of collapse. Right. I think one of the things is, there's a certain amount of food or water or whatever, and you do so much, you're busy all the time. And I think not taking the time to stop and think about yourself, right? These kids have big friend groups doing lots of stuff. Like this week is homecoming week. So we've got the parade tonight in like an hour. We've got the homecoming parade and the cross country teams in the homecoming parade. They got float building last night and the night before, so they were up from till 9 doing the float building parade, and then they've got all this other type of stuff. We've got a race tomorrow, a 3-hour bus ride to a race tomorrow. So I think what adults can learn that the kids are also learning is how to manage all that stuff that's going on and still take care of yourself and take care of the basics. And just bring it back to basics, and also not get too complicated. Are you hitting your macros? Are you hitting your hydration? Then worry about the other extra stuff. Like, we got to have enough food. We got to have enough water. And if you're not doing that, can't have a good race.
Yeah. How much yelling is involved? I played high school football, so it's more like just getting screamed at was like a thing.
No, I don't. I do not yell at these kids. No, middle school, especially middle school. Like they're walking. It's fine, right? They're sixth grade. We start sixth grade, so sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth graders. Some of the kids are walking. Some of the kids want to go win the race, right? And so there's big variation there. When I get them into high school, there's a little bit more of like, hey, what were your goals? Like, you shouldn't walk today, kind of thing. And then by their junior, senior year, you've had enough of those conversations. You're not having to yell and scream, right? Like during a race, of course, right? Big cheers, hey, way to go. But I leave one rep in the tank, all that kind of stuff, right? We want to work hard, but not work too hard. I think especially here in elevation, I think it's really easy to go too hard up here, right? If I want them to do 6 reps and they want to stop at 5, I let it go. Because literally that 6th rep might destroy them up here. It's so hard to recover. It takes so much longer. That's one of the hardest things about modifying coaching. I try to do continuing education. I try to do all this stuff to coach these kids correctly. And modifying that for 10,000 feet, it's really recovery. Recovery is the big thing that I've noticed that I got to put in there.
Yeah,
It
I feel
sounds so
like
much more healthy
yeah,
than
yeah.
my
I know,
experience.
like these kids aren't going to have anywhere to like develop their like supervillain origin story from. You're just like simply not instilling enough low grade trauma. Like none of them are going to get to be novelists or
Uh,
Michael Jordan and have crippling gambling addictions.
my coach was too emotionally available in high school. It's terrible.
I had two healthy male role models.
Models.
I'm way too in touch with a balanced masculinity.
Yeah. Oh. Is there an alternate universe where you and your wife maybe end up someplace like Florida and you just become a coach there and are like running the, I don't know, Florida Keys 100 every year?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
no, actually, no.
Okay.
My wife couldn't handle not seeing the mountains. Growing
Okay.
up in Glenwood, we went to college at Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington. So Eastern Washington, it's rolling, right? Wheat fields.
Mhm.
But the fact that like, if she couldn't, if there wasn't anything above the trees, drove her nuts. So
Yeah.
I feel that.
yeah, the mountains, she needed the mountains. She needs views. Even New York was annoying. The Adirondacks were great, but whenever she'd go on a hike, she's like, I got to now climb up a fire tower to get the view. So she also
I
wanted
mean,
tree line, right? We want
okay.
to see
Yeah.
tree line here.
Boy, that eliminates a lot of the US. Yeah.
Yes.
I get
But
it though.
Leadville definitely has that in droves. I'm curious how you in addition to being a teacher and coach Cade among other things, how do you balance those responsibilities with also like training and competing at higher levels in the sport too?
Yeah, it can be
Especially
really hard.
10,000 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it could absolutely be very hard. Like I mess up my nutrition all the time. I get busy and I don't have a good lunch, and it's kind of affects my training. I really try to train in the mornings when it's free. Not having kids, we have two dogs, so my wife and two dogs, and so I can easily kind of go to bed a little earlier if I need to get up earlier in the morning to get my training in. So that has been I kind of got that from Tim Parr. We would meet. This is kind of when I first moved to Leadville. I was like, who's my first friend? Who do I start running with? Because I wanted to get into it. And Timmy was like, hey, I run at 5:30 every morning. Let's go. And so I got in that habit of getting up early, getting it in. It's a good time to run in Leadville, especially in the winter, because it's cold enough. Everything's really solid and hard. And the sun hasn't created any ice spots or anything really. There might be something you can't quite see, but I do a lot of my runs in the dark in the morning.
So it's super glamorous, like very much the Rocky montage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Perfect.
Drink 4 raw eggs and head out the door. Yeah. Like you do. Yeah. You're not sponsored, but you do have some pretty good race results. Is that an option for you? Are you like curious about that at all? Are you just kind of like pretty happy doing your thing and just crushing on a less social media heavy level, I guess?
Well, I do like how things are, right? I like being able to choose what I want to choose, eat what I want to eat, race what I want to race, put on shoes. But honestly, no one's reached out also. So it's a pretty easy choice for me to say that I'm not doing it for altruistic reasons because no one's asked. But
just beating them back with the stick,
yeah,
just
right?
like
Yeah.
inbox DMs totally full.
That's been my experience with the NBA too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No one's reached out. Yeah. So for good reason.
I actually remember like several years ago, I had interviewed Jim Walmsley, and even he was saying like obviously things are different now, but very early on in his career, he like literally didn't have a computer. So he would have to like go to the Flagstaff Public Library and he would like send cold emails to like sock brands being like, hi, I am a boy named Jim and I want to run extremely hard and extremely long. And he would just like have to print out his rejection letter and take them home, and like that's I think an even more analog approach. But yeah, I don't know how many people are getting like cold approached by brands anyway.
Absolutely.
I think the flow of power is pretty different in this sport.
Oh, absolutely. I remember talking to Timmy a lot about, right? He was a Hoka athlete when he was here, and then he moved to Ultra, and he had some Honey Stinger stuff, right? It was all him, right? He got all those for himself. And I just have no desire necessarily to be super out there and really want to rep anyone specific. Like I want to rep places that I believe in, right? And there's some great companies out there, but I want to be my own person. I want to do what I want to do, right? I kind of grew up that way. I was homeschooled for a long way. We lived on a sailboat. My parents quit their jobs. We traveled around the US and kind of being on my own and being more of my own person, and beholden to just my family, is really important to me, and not having a ton of other people that tell me what I have to do.
Not having to be a shill unless it's for brands I actually believe in, like Casper mattresses. Just kidding, we
Yeah.
don't have a mattress sponsorship.
I
The
actually
only
did some.
podcast on earth without a current mattress sponsor, which spiritually would feel really good, I
I
think, for
think so.
us.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Uh, Pat, what makes as a biased local who has a very short commute to the starting line of the race, what makes the Leadville 100 like one of the best ultra races to do that people should do?
I really like big races. I like races where it feels like a big deal, where they do a good job of putting on a show. Small races are great as well. I do local races here that are awesome, but part of what really makes this race fun and special to me is the number of people at the start line. Is the big banners, is the town kind of closing down. I think the fact that it is a big deal, and we get so many people where it's kind of a destination race. It kind of builds on itself. That attitude, that bigger attitude, makes it feel more epic to me. Part of the way they give back to the community, they do a great job of. People get complaints about closing roads and things, but the race series does a good job of giving back to the schools, connecting with the schools, and we've been pretty good partners for the last handful of years. So that's another uh, thing that I like about the race, kind of giving back, and not just people. I only moved here 10 years ago. I wasn't part of the whole switch to lifetime. But in my experience, it's been they've incorporated in the community, continue to stay incorporated in the community very well.
So, I mean, like you said, it's such a big event and it brings people in from all over the world. And I mean, even though I don't live like crazy far away, I'm just over the pass here in Carbondale, like getting to race on that course, you sort of do, or at least I sort of definitely developed like a parasocial relationship with the trail and with the community and with like the amazing landscapes you get to run through. And I think that a lot of people sort of share that same attachment. What would you want folks to understand about your community? Folks who maybe don't live there year round, don't get to experience as much of Leadville outside of like that one amazing 30 hours a year.
I think what a lot of people don't know about our community is just how much of a bedroom community we are right now for the resort towns. We have a very large Hispanic population. I think 70% of our high school is Hispanic origin. And I think knowing that we're more than just a cute downtown, that you go get a coffee and there's a couple cute shops. I think knowing that our community is more varied and more diverse than that, and that we're serving and we're having to help a wide group of people. There's part of with COVID, there's been a bit of people buying up houses kind of near downtown, so kind of the historical around downtown houses can be a little bit more Airbnb, and people want to do that when the races are happening, right? So there's a lot of local families who rent their houses out. So town might feel like it's just there for the races, and I always want people to realize that there are people who live in this year round, and it's tough year round, and live in trailers when it's -4 degrees out. And it can be pretty harsh living up here and commuting to Vale or to Summit. It's a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful, amazing place to recreate and year round. But I think recognizing we're not really a tourist town as much as it might seem as coming in for the races.
Ski Cooper just isn't like pulling the numbers that like Aspen and Vale are, is it? It's like,
Not
It
at
has
all.
a cult following though. Like the
oh, I
people
love
I
it.
know that love Ski Cooper, they are like all about Ski Cooper.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Or was. I haven't been there in years, but yeah.
Oh, well, and they got that nice new area in the back now that's a tow rope to get up so you get exhausted, but some tree skiing.
Yeah.
It's great. Nothing steep, really. So, it's like you take anyone there and have a good time.
Could you explain the Dream Chaser program, the Leadville race series, like how that works? People who
Sure.
might
So
not know.
so the Dream Chaser, there's a Dream Chaser both on the bike side and on the run side for the 100 race only. So in the 100 race, They started the very, very back. So this year's the new Dream Chaser's first year that he did it was Jeff Spencer. And he starts all the way in the back behind the last person, last corral. And the bike, they recently changed up the corrals so it doesn't even crunch together. There's actually like a 25 minute difference between the elite wave going off and the final last wave. And he also starts the finish line after that. And then he's got to get through 1,600 people as much as he can. And every single person he passes, money gets donated to the Legacy Foundation. And that money gets sent back to the high school. So we have graduating students get $2,000 towards continuing education after high school. And the run for the last 5 years, Rodrigo Jimenez has been the Dream Chaser. And so the bike's been going on, I can't remember exactly, I think it's about 10 years, 12 years. So Rodrigo started he did his 5th year this year. And to kind of keep it's not as hard to pass people on the run. So in order to make it a challenge, make it an interesting challenge, he started 2.5 hours behind. So Rodrigo's last year was his last year, and he typically finishes, 21, 22, 23 hours is his chip time. And so then he's finishing 2.5 plus. And so he gets donations from whoever is willing to help out the foundation.
Is it like regular people can donate? Like I can donate? Or is
Absolutely,
it?
yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and anyone can donate. A lot of people donate flat fees. Like, hey, this sounds awesome. I don't care how many he passes. I want to give this amount of money. Any amount of money is wonderful. And some people do pledge per person. So you can pledge, $1 a person, and then hopefully you'd be out $700.
Can you put a hit on somebody? Be like, I give you $5,000 if you pass my brother-in-law.
If you pass my ex, I will give you. You will get $5,000 from me.
Yeah, that seems like this. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just think it's super inspiring to watch Rodrigo go by. Right, I've done it 6 times, and so pretty much every year he's been the Dream Chaser. Every year he's on the Dream Chaser, right? It's like, oh, am I going to get caught by him this time, right? And I can't remember what years he has caught me. I think two of the 6, but it's kind of it's a positive and a negative, right? Oh, more money's going, but I'm getting passed by this guy because he's 2.5 hours ahead of me.
That happens. I can speak from experience. Yeah. It sounds like a lot of pressure to not DNF then, probably, right? Because like if you DNF, you're probably not. Is there zero money going to charity?
I don't know exactly how that would work behind the scenes. I do know that Rodrigo has pushed through some really tough stuff. I don't remember what year it was, if it was 2 or 3 years ago. He had a pretty bad bike crash. He likes to do, Rodrigo's amazing. And he also, most of the years, also led man. So he would do the marathon, the run 50, the bike 100, the 10K, and then the 100 run. He usually wouldn't do the Silver King. He wouldn't do both 50s. But yeah, so one of the years he had a pretty bad crash and punctured a lung, I believe.
Whoa.
That took a while. Luckily it was enough in the spring. He got going again, and he still had a great race. I mean, he's just a super tough athlete. And this year I know he was dealing with a little bit of a hip issue that kept him from really striding out and going. But that guy is tough, and there's a lot riding on it, and he's up for the challenge. He was incredible.
Yeah, and always runs like very objectively speedy times, even after starting like one Titanic the film after everyone else.
Yeah. Wow. Well,
I'm curious, like, what the high school, so like the kids that go to Lake County High School, they have you as their teacher, as their coach, and they grow up around like something that for like an ultra and trail culture like looms so large. Like I feel like a lot of folks, that's like maybe the first 100 they hear about, or the only 100 they hear about if they're not like super in the scene. And probably high school kids in Leadville are thinking like, oh, that's totally normal. Like this is just like a normal part of culture, is that like a full quarter of the adults I know just run this like crazy 100-mile race every single year. And like, yeah, my like high school like cross country coach does this, and like a good, half the lunch ladies do this, and that's just a totally normal thing that the citizens of this town do.
I think the kids, it's not quite that many. I think the kids do. They really see it as a big deal. Right. That there's been a couple teachers who've done it recently, and they're like, oh, really? Mr. X did it. Oh my gosh. So the number of people in town that have actually done it is not massive. But yeah, the kids get super inspired. They love it. There's been some pretty cool cheering sections, right, that have happened. I've got some cool photos of myself with like the whole team practically at the finish line. Um, so they all know about it, but yeah, because we have such a large Hispanic community, I think that was what was so cool about Rodrigo being such a massive part of the race, was that he pulled in a lot of that community, and connected to a lot of those people who are just struggling to get by, and they're just struggling to go through their normal day-to-day life and survive. And so I think that the kids still see it as like pretty amazing, pretty big deal.
There's a video of you finishing, I think it's the 2024 race with the probably 20 kids from the cross country team. And I think you were struggling with some foot issues for a big chunk of that race. Can you kind of describe how that felt? Did you know they were waiting for you, for one? And then can you kind of describe how that felt having to finish with them? Because you finish and you're just like, boom, there's not like a big group hug or anything. They all just kind of leave you alone and you just look like, oh.
Yeah. I never know how many people are going to be there. The year before that, so I was in the 20s or 30s placing wise. I can't remember exactly because of my foot issues. So the year before that, I was 5th, and I heard the kids were going to show up, and there was one kid. Because I finished so early. So I was like, oh, okay. So it was really cool because in the previous years, right, I've coached them all the way through. This is my 10th year, right? And I've been the cross country coach, and I've done the race 6 times now. So no, normally it's not that much. And so that was really cool, really inspiring to see all those kids. And then, what you didn't see necessarily in the video is all the parents behind them that were taking them there. There's someone whose house is up on the top of the hill at 6th, and they slept overnight the last 2 nights for the start. So they slept on the porch so they could cheer us all on at the start. And so it's become a pretty cool thing where it's been really fun to see how many have come. So no, I did not expect that many at all. And it was really, really cool. And one of the kids keeps getting flack about it though, because I tried to pick it up a little bit and sprint just a little bit. Because I tell them I want you to sprint at the end of every race. It's all mental, right? It's not physiological. You can sprint at the end of every race. And so I was like, well, I tell them that I better try. And I got out sprinted by a 7th grader. And they all like to joke about that. Like, oh, why did you beat Cade? You're supposed to let him go over the line first. He tells me to sprint. I sprinted. So that was pretty great.
I finished like 30 minutes after you in 2024. And like when I finished, my crew was like, yo, the guy that finished right before you had like a posse out here. Like, is he famous? Like, what's his deal? Like, why don't you have a bunch of kids cheering for you?
Kinda. But
I've built the team into a pretty cool thing. When I first started 10 years ago, I had 6 kids on the cross country team. And that was it for middle school. And now we got 20 middle schoolers and 20 high schoolers. So,
wow.
That's another part of it is, you get someone who has the time and the energy, or I don't know what it is that I've done, but been able to get a few more kids out, and it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. This is a total change of subject, but are you in a position to talk about your PhD dissertation?
Sure.
And what that was, and explain that to people who are not that into academia or math even?
Yeah. So my PhD thesis is projective cohomology, projective spectrum, and cyclic cohomology. The title of my PhD
That sounds
thesis.
real fake.
Yeah.
No, I did the same thing. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Right? Yeah.
And yet here we all are on a podcast.
Yeah. So it high level mathematics, who knows, right? If it's going to be used for anything, or I like to tell the kids when I was teaching college algebra this morning, right? A lot of the math stuff is kind of the drills in the middle, right? Or like the real world problem, physicists or somebody else comes up with this big problem. The math in the middle has been done. And then you go back, it's like solving a word problem, right? You got to set it up. All that math's already been done. That's the hope, right? Is you do all this math and hopefully it applies to something. Not every math is ever going to apply, and you kind of know that. My PhD thesis has the potential to help connect different types of geometry. So if we have like kind of a spatial geometry, and that could maybe connect with some kind of calculus type geometry, and I'm going to stay very vague. So my PhD thesis was kind of a connection of 2 fields that already existed. So there's already a theory about space, already a theory about manifolds. I had a little connection that would hopefully allow people over here to connect over here. And just a little connection in the mathematics. This is the hope.
Do you do that with a real world application in mind? Like,
Sure. So we don't know. We can't tell if just sitting on Earth, you can't necessarily tell where we're sitting right now if the universe is a inside of a sphere or the inside of a donut. Right? You wouldn't be able to tell if there was the hole in the donut. Because space all around us is three dimensional. Like you can move in all directions. And even then, right, you can, like, on a sphere, you can just move in all directions and maybe circle back around. So like if you live on the outside of a sphere, right, you go up and you just come back around. That's also true on a donut. If you're on the surface of a donut, you can go around and around. Right? And if it's a filled donut, then you can kind of collapse your path, like incrementally. You can collapse it down. But the donut, one of the directions, so if you travel north-south on a donut, it'll collapse. East-west, it won't. But on a sphere, it would. So we don't know. Are there kind of weird holes in the universe and space-time that might have this type of property?
Like, do we live in a space-time continuum or a space-time beignet?
Exactly, yeah. And so you could then make predictions, right? So the math makes predictions. If you are this shape, you should be able to see these things. If you are this shape, you should be able to see these things, right? If we live in 17 dimensions, you should expect this to happen. So the math kind of does this kind of, oh, well, what are the properties that might follow from being a donut? Do we see any of those properties, right? So it's kind of doesn't prove that we're a donut or not. But so there's some maybe experiments that physicists could do around the way that light moves or travel in space that might then, well, we see this and this, so we might be more of a sphere than a donut or things like that. So that's kind of the application of my research. Wow. Mathematicians don't care about applications, though. They care about the math itself, right? Being a mathematician is a lot like being an artist. You create something without necessarily looking for an answer. You are your muse. You do math. You follow the logic, right? It's like working in a medium. You're working with paints. You have your paints. You can't change if your watercolor oils. You've got your paints. But what you put on the canvas, what questions you look at, what things you try to answer, that's mathematics. And so you don't necessarily need to follow along a realistic viewpoint. You can just say, well, what if this? What if I have this other kind of object? What if I have this new paint? How's that going to work in this landscape? What if I make the flowers yellow instead of blue? How will that look? Right? And so in mathematics, it's very similar in that you have these inspirations. Like, oh, what if I do this? What if I try this thing? And you make these connections. So especially research mathematics is very inspiration driven. You could plug and chug like just you can with everything else, right? With painting, you can just get out there and sit in front of your canvas and try something. But to really make something amazing, mathematics needs that inspiration. And that's part of what I love about it was you aren't looking for matching reality. I don't care about matching reality. I could assume reality is what I want it to be. If I can just make an assumption and see what happens, see what follows from that assumption I made. So my PhD thesis, projective spectrum was something that was defined by my advisor. No one else knows what it is. Now there's a handful of people, right? But he defined this new object, projective spectrum, that has properties similar to other things that already exist. So it's like reasonable to define it. And we just explored what's true, what's sometimes true, what's always true, what's never true. What do we see? Oh my gosh, this thing that he defined, it links up with something else someone else defined. Oh, so maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something people can use and connect. And so that kind of puzzly thought process, free form, like attacking problems in different ways. Like oftentimes problems are unsolved for ages. People have a problem they want done. You need someone with a fresh viewpoint. That's why a lot of 20-year-olds or whatever, big research mathematics, they come at it from a new paradigm, a new viewpoint. So that it's kind of interesting how in order to be a top research mathematician, you need to not only have the technical skills to get through proofs and create proofs, but the inspirational artistic skills to pick the right thing. And you don't know why. Why did I pick that? But it works.
Do you miss getting to dabble in the slightly more like I feel like teaching is like very, it's like a blue collar sort of mathematical application. coaching, I mean, running, if not anything else, is like an extremely applied physics. Do you miss being able to just like pose questions and sort of deal more in the realm of the theoretical and like at the origin of things rather than trying to arrive at a conclusion necessarily?
Oh yeah, totally. Research mathematics, the academic field, there's so much other politics, not even politics, just the commodification of education. And so is there money for research? And so it can be really hard for schools to justify having someone who is mainly doing research versus someone who is doing something like teaching classes. And so I was not a top researcher, right? There was people who were way more on top of it. And so finding that right balance of, well, I like teaching, I like research, who's going to pay me for what? And so, you know, I do miss though that space, that ability to, like at Siena, have my 3 or 4 classes, but then have my research friends that I was able to have these awesome conversations with and kind of do cool new stuff. I mean, that's what's one of the beauties about it is you were creating new things. You're creating something no one ever done before. What hard or not, just the fact that you're creating something. I definitely miss that. I miss the creation aspect of mathematics for sure.
You should just like start leaving extremely complicated problems on the high school chalkboards and just like trying to see if you can seed a Goodwill Hunting
right?
situation.
Who's going to come through? Yeah.
Yeah, just waiting.
How did you end up going into the PhD? Were you like just like, maybe I get a master's, maybe I get a PhD, or were you like really gung ho about maybe academia at some point, or what was that path like?
Well, so when I went from a tiny little school in Oregon to Whitman College, a fairly top liberal arts school.
Can we shout out your high school too? What was your high school?
Riddle, Oregon. Yeah, I mean, do I have some stuff in the maybe not. It's all my high school t-shirts my mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to a small school, Riddle, Oregon. Great school, great people, but I wasn't pushed academically at all. Just kind of, I was more interested in running and playing the clarinet than anything else. I didn't have to work at school at all. And so when I got to Whitman, like all of a sudden we had people who were like asking good questions. And kids who didn't do the reading could still we could have a good conversation. Like, I know you didn't do the reading, but we're having cool stuff. And so that inspired me a lot academically, right? To push myself. And luckily I got between my sophomore and junior year, I got a grant to work on a math textbook through the summer. So one of the math professors was writing a math textbook, a calculus book, and he wanted a recent calculus student to go through it as like a non-expert and say, hey, what is this like? And that summer was awesome. I did math problems all day, every day. We did some research. He had a little research project too. He paid for the grant, paid for my housing and a little bit of food. So I just spent the summer doing math, and it was so cool. I had so much fun doing all that. And so that kind of inspired me to keep going. I didn't necessarily out of my undergrad though, want to go right into grad school. I wasn't sure. And luckily my wife had a job to stay at Whitman an extra year. And so I kind of figured out what I wanted for that extra year. And that's what I missed the most was I missed math and running, but I was doing the coaching thing a little bit with the team. And so I wanted to do more math. So I applied to PhD programs, straight to PhD,
cool.
Not master's or anything, straight to a PhD program. So I got funded, so I didn't have to pay for school. So I got all the way through my PhD program where I had to teach a class this semester, work in the tutoring room, and other than that, they paid for food basically, and waived tuition. So
yeah. The clarinet comment makes me think you should tweak your metaphor about instead of being painting, it's like math is like hip hop musicians finding jazz records and creating entire songs out of them in the 80s and 90s. Anyway, but do you still play the clarinet?
I do not. No, I started to pick up the guitar a little bit. When my dad passed, he had a bunch of extra guitars about a year and a half ago. So I was like, oh, I need to get back into music. So I'm going to grab these guitars and I'm going to teach myself. So
yeah. How's that going?
I've been playing for about a year and it's just a lot of fun. It's fun thing to do in the evenings. So
yeah. Cool.
Is there anything you've learned or that you would apply from your I guess dabbling is probably not the right word if you have a PhD in it. That's a hard dabble from your hard dabble in math that you would apply to your also hard dabble in trail and ultra running.
I think that understanding the benefits of plugging away every day, right? I know I talked a lot about the artistic merits of math and kind of how that inspiration tends to hit you. You don't get inspired if you're not doing it, right? Like you're not having those aha moments in the shower if you're not plugging away every day, looking at your problem, trying things. And so like I would spend, when I was doing research mathematics, right, I had this specific problem I was trying to do, and I would just spend 4 or 5 hours just plugging numbers into a math program just to see what would come out. So I could try to see like what is actually going on all the time, not for these specific examples. And so it's the same thing with running. It really helps. Like you gotta keep it going. You can't let it go. You can't it's been 10 years since I did research mathematics. I barely remember I couldn't prove anything for my PhD thesis. And so that aspect of small, steady progress. If you keep day after day, you're gonna keep going. But then also, like be ready for those inspirational moments, right? If it's a beautiful day, maybe today's the day I go up Elbert. I know maybe my coach didn't tell me to go up Elbert, but my gosh, this is beautiful. I'm gonna do Elbert today.
I need to tell my coach. I was inspired. We live on a space-time beignet. I'm doing the 14er. Nothing matters. Reality is in 17 dimensions. Pat Cade told me so.
That's right.
Do you do in Leadville, do you do in the winters, do you do any ski touring or Nordic skiing or anything? Or are you strictly running all winter?
No, I try to ski 2 or 3 days a week. I don't go crazy. I learned how to ski when I was in my 20s from my wife, because coming out to Glenwood, she's like, come on, you got to go down Black Diamonds. Like, come on, we're going to go ski at, Ajax, Aspen Highlands. Like, come on. I did do some downhill skiing. Ski touring is great here because it's so low slopes. Like, there's hardly any danger, but I still get a little nervous. So I basically just skin up and down Ski Cooper. For a while there, I was doing it every Tuesday morning with a couple other guys, which I've kind of stopped going to. But I'll try to do it, once a week. And then there's awesome Nordic trails up here. You can't not Nordic ski, because I've got quarter mile away, I've got the Minerbelt Trail, which is 12-mile loop that's groomed. And then there's a bunch of groomed trails at the CMC, Colorado Mountain College. Some groomed trails down. The Snowmobile Club groomed stuff up on the east side. It's like the 50 course. Most of the 50 course is groomed. So there's just, you can't not. There's so many opportunities. But I still run a lot. But I try to get out to ski when I can.
Okay.
Popular.
Because running's hard up here with the where you gonna go. There's snow everywhere. Like the street outside of my house is snow. So I end up doing the one route up to the Black Cloud aid station for the 50, up the Prenderboy, up the paved road, because there's a Superfund site they drive up every day. So it gets, if not plowed, at least gets car traffic out of town. So I've got a good 10-mile route I can do every morning, basically, and be able to run it in the dark and run it comfortably. But yeah, there's not a lot of, like, it turns into ski areas, right? Like all the trails, you can't run any of the trails at all. So you're stuck to roads. So it's definitely hard, but fun.
Pat needs a Microspike sponsor. That's what we need.
Need the ice bugs, if that shoe brand still exists. That's just like epic knife shoes. Let's get you an ice bug sponsorship.
And look those up. Yeah,
they're spiky.
Yep.
All kinds of different ways to make terrible decisions in the winter.
Right.
Now I just wear trail shoes and accept that I will get plantar fasciitis every winter. Someone's got to keep the PTs afloat. If not me, who?
Well, Pat, thanks for joining us. This has been fun to shove some math down the throats of Trailhead listeners.
Totally didn't expect that we would get to Is the Universe a Donut, but I'm really glad we did.
I love this stuff so much.
If you've ever stared at a map of the Mountain West and let your imagination run wild, the Salt and Sulfur 420 is what happens when someone actually follows through on that daydream. This is a 420-mile journey run, not a stage race. Starting August 4th in Salt Lake City and finishing in West Yellowstone. You'll climb into the Wasatch Range, wind through Ogden and Logan Canyons, skirt the turquoise edge of Bear Lake, cross into Wyoming, pass through Jackson Hole with the Tetons looming overhead, and finish at the doorstep of Yellowstone. This has got to be one of the coolest and most visually stunning traverses that you can do in North America. The terrain is mostly paved with about 50 miles of dirt, but the surface is really beside the point. You're going to sign up for this because you want to find out what's left after day 3. After 5 days, there's really no room for ego, no room for doubt. Just you and the road and whatever you discover along the way. Crew is encouraged but not required. You're expected to be resourceful, self-sufficient, and ready to problem-solve your way across 4 states. All proceeds benefit the Women's Center in Salt Lake City. You better hurry up and register now because registration closes on February 1st. Learn more and sign up at UltraSignup.com. Search Salt and Sulfur 420. Thanks for joining us on the Trailhead. If you love this episode, leave us a review. Share it with your trail crew and make sure to subscribe so you never miss an adventure. Give us a follow on Instagram at TrailheadPod. And you can reach us anytime at trailhead@ultrasignup.com. We'd love to hear your stories, questions, guest ideas, or just to say hi. And don't forget to check out all of the shows in the Ultra Podcast Network. We're building something special, and it's just for you. We'll see you every other week, right here on the Trailhead.